New episode of the podcast, recording this one on a Tuesday early morning, coming off a Blazers loss last night that bummed me out. Last night went from Blazers to Bachelor extremely quickly. Very emotional night for me. So bear with me as I struggled through sleep because of those two things. The Blazers aren't great right now. Oh my gosh. Without superstars, it's tough to win in the NBA without your superstars. You can't just have one and try to ride his shoulders to victory night in, night out. Because when he has a not perfect shooting night like last night, Damian Lillard, not a perfect shooting night, things get a little bit difficult. A little bit difficult. Okay, today, short pod today. Tomorrow, Alyssa Charleston, who is one of the only people on the planet right now who gets to interact on a regular basis with the Gonzaga Bulldogs because of COVID and quarantine protocol and all that. They're not readily available. So she is one of the people. She works for Gonzaga right now doing the post game for them. So we'll talk to Alyssa tomorrow on the program. A couple things for you that I want to throw out there. Number one, numero uno. I never got to the Queens Gambit stuff. I wanted to mention about that show. It's really, really good. And I watched Queen's Gambit over the course of way too long the last 2 weeks. It's only 7 episodes long. I don't know if it's going to be a series or if it was just a one-time mini-series thing, but the show is about a young lady who has a very difficult life coming from being an orphan, how she got to become an orphan, and then her being an orphan until the end of the series where she's a great, great chess player, a world-renowned chess player, which if you had told me that was the premise for a show, I probably would have looked at you and said, okay, yeah, what else are you watching? But I'm going to tell you, this is why. If you've talked to someone about Queen's Gambit, they're very weird on how they tell you that. I talked to multiple people before watching the show, and they all said the same thing. Well, it's really hard to explain. It's not hard to explain. It's about a girl who's really good at chess. That is what the show is about. And again, you hear that and go, are you watching The Boys season 2? Like, is that better? Trust me when I tell you, the way it's filmed, the way it's written, the way it's acted, it is about a young lady who is extremely good at playing chess and whose brain works so differently and kind of gets you in the mind of a game that, I know how to play. I've watched Searching for Bobby Fischer when I was a kid, but I'm not a diehard chess person. I haven't ever picked up a chess book. I haven't looked out chess on YouTube to watch the greatest chess matches of all time, but I know how it works. I know it exists. I know it's difficult, and it just shows how a really good chess player's brain works completely differently than a really good Monopoly player or a really good player of the game of life. And it's really interesting to see how that works. And it's really interesting also in this show to look back. And I didn't look up the truth to this story or how it looked in terms of, is it based on a real person? But it is really interesting to look at the time frame, which is in the late 50s into the late 60s. And that time frame, watching what was happening in the world with the game of chess. And I think they do a pretty good job laying out what it was like in America compared to what it was like in Russia, where the Russians were just locked in on this thing to the point where in part of it, they talk about one of the guys who's really good at chess goes to a tournament overseas and there's KGB with him to make sure he doesn't escape because he's such an asset, of course, to Russia for being this great chess player. Now, I don't know how true that is to history, but I'm assuming that there's some truth to that back in the day when they were doing this, and that's kind of the point that wanted to be made there. Again, this is a show about a girl who plays chess, but it is very good, and it's on Netflix. It's only 7 episodes long, each one around an hour, some less, some more. I always give the parental advisory to a lot of the shows that I'm digging because I do feel like that's really important. It's got language in it. I don't remember if it has like any nudity in it. I don't think it has any crazy violence in it, but it does have a lot of language. And there's a lot of sexual innuendo in it as the show goes on. But the bare bones of it, it's a really good show about a girl who's really good at chess. I promise you, if you get into it, by the time you're done, you're going to be looking on Amazon for a chessboard and trying to find that person who's going to play a game against you. My buddy Mike, who told me to watch it, he was like, dude, I played chess when I was younger. When are we going to play? And I was like, let's go. Let's get it out there and get wild. I feel like everyone who knows anything about chess knows a couple basic things, maybe a couple basic moves, but it is, again, very good show to watch. Now I'm a show free agent right now. I need to pick up a new one. It's been tricky because here at the Widmer House, Monday nights are Bachelor nights. We're watching everything that's going on with that show. My top 3 ranking right now for Matt James, who I think I'm realizing I was super hyped on him when the show started, and I'm starting to wean off of him. My wife was telling me last night that the first episode of The Bachelor was the lowest ranked ever, something like that, the lowest season premiere ever. And she made a good point about it. It's because the dude had no history and drama in his life, and it's why you see real quickly why shows like The Bachelor want someone who's been on the show before, because when you have someone who we're familiar with going into the season, you have just their built up baggage. You feel like you know a lot about them, where it sounds great to go, oh, let's clean slate it. But then when you clean slate it, it's just not as valuable as when you've spent a lot of time watching a person and now you get to see them on the other side of the table. Anyways, the top 3 rankings for me right now on The Bachelor, and Matt James, I know you're listening. Here's where I'd go. Number 3, Mari. Mari seems to be awesome. A little attitude to her. She's beautiful, and I think she's interesting to the point where you could sit down with her and have some fun conversations, and she's not going to drive you insane, and she seems to have her head on pretty straight. Number 2 is Rachel. I think no explanation needed. This girl is awesome. She's going to go down as an all-timer on The Bachelor. She seems to have her head on all the way straight. I mean, last night's episode, they didn't even need to show her because she's such a 1 seed moving forward. It was just a bye week. This was her Green Bay Packers skipping over for the first week of the playoffs because there was no reason for her to be on. We know we're going to see her later on. The producers are like, give me the girls with all the drama. Rachel, we'll talk to you in 4 weeks when we are getting down to the final episodes. We'll see you then. We'll dive into you and your life at the home trips or whatever they call. What are they called? Are they going to do those this year? Are they going to do? I don't even know what they're called anymore. Are they going to do the trips back to the people's houses? Probably not. COVID. That's going to be weird. And then number 1 on the Sean Widmer Bachelor contestant power rankings for Matt James to pick, Bree. Lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it in. Matt, get that done. She seems to be the coolest girl. She's gorgeous. It's funny because we went through the first night and we're trying to find the girls on Instagram because you can learn a little bit about them on Instagram. I like to know which ones seem to be more normal girls on the show and which ones are on there because they are super famous in some other ways, most of those ways being modeling on Instagram. And a lot of these girls have, 60,000 to 200,000 followers. They've been on Instagram, being famous on Instagram for a long time. This Bree girl had 2,000 followers on night 1. Now she's up to 70,000, maybe more, a couple weeks into the show. But Matt James, if you're listening, lock it up. Bree, number 1 on that show right now. I do love that they went Bachelor in Paradise on us last night and just added 5 girls randomly just in the middle of the season because I guess they needed to spice things up a little bit. They needed to bring that one girl in whose name I don't remember. The girl who got called an escort last night. They needed to bring her in just to really bring us some thunder. I thought that was really wild. I didn't know if they brought them in late because they wanted to spice the show up or because these girls had been in quarantine and broke quarantine or had coronavirus and needed to re-quarantine. That was maybe my thought because obviously the one girl who got called out last night, people knew she was going to be on the show before the show. So she might have just been doing an Uber. These people might have been doing an Uber quarantine. And maybe that was what was going on there. Okay. I'll end it with this one for you today because it's funny. We had a thing on the radio show, Jay and Kevin show, Coyote Country. Check it out. We had something for it yesterday where we were doing a game based on logos. And I wanted to bring this up because I've ruined a logo for me and I'd like to ruin it for all of you unless you already know this when you're driving today. Have you looked at the Baskin-Robbins logo lately? And I just learned this yesterday. I'm 39 years old. And again, you may already know this. Sorry. The Baskin-Robbins logo is blue and pink. And it's the BR, and then it says Baskin-Robbins. But in the BR, there are 2 pink parts of the BR. It is the let's see, right side of the capital B and the left side of the capital R. And the reason that is because Baskin-Robbins is 31 flavors, and the 3, the right side of a B is a 3. The left side of the R, that straight line looks like a 1. They're right next to each other. It says 3-1. It's a 31. I'm going to tell you, I passed by Baskin-Robbins yesterday, driving up north from South Spokane to North Spokane to pick up my daughter. And you needed to know those things for no reason. But I drove by Baskin-Robbins 3 times, and I don't even see BR anymore. The only thing I see when I drive by Baskin-Robbins now is that big, bright pink 31. Nothing else stands out. Nothing else makes sense to me. So I'm officially just calling Baskin-Robbins 31 because that's all I see on their sign, or 31 Baskin-Robbins. One of them has the big BR up top and then Baskin-Robbins underneath. So 31 Baskin-Robbins. But I think I'm just going to call it 31. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You will see it forever. It's super creative by them. So I wanted to shout out, kudos, well done. Way to hide something inside your logo that took me until this point in my life to figure out. Well done, Baskin-Robbins. Or excuse me, well done, 31. Okay, that's it for today. Tomorrow, Alyssa Charleston will be on the show. We'll talk some Gonzaga Bulldogs. We will talk about why she's ducking us. Peaceful Valley hoops. Oh, Dalton and I went to Peaceful Valley yesterday and did some skateboarding. He was on the show last week. Yesterday was our day to go out and skateboard. It was funny. We set up this big thing for Monday to skateboard. We had set up a time, place, all this. It snowed like crazy. Well, not like crazy, but it snowed a bunch Monday morning. So we went out to this court, big flat surface, like a tennis court surface, to skateboard, practice our tricks, learn a little bit, and there's just snow everywhere. The court's wet. We still messed around for a little bit, but it was just weird timing. It had been dry. We knew it was going to be cold, but it had been dry all week. It had been dry all weekend. It snows one time. That's right before we wanted to get out and do this. So at some point, I'm going to have Dalton on to recap week 1. It was fun because we did do like we're going to become pros. We filmed each other trying to. This is what it would look like if you were driving by Peaceful Valley yesterday. 2 adult men on skateboards, snow on the court. Middle of the court, there's no snow because there's a bridge over top. So middle of the court is just wet. 2 adult dudes on skateboards. And the only thing we could think to do, we wanted to make sure we were getting our ollies, which is the jumps down. We just put a bunch of sticks, these branches, fallen branches in the middle of the court. And we were trying to jump over these branches because that's a good way to know if you're clearing some air or if you're just feeling like you're jumping off the ground, but you're not. So here's 2 adult dudes in the snow jumping over branches. That's what we did. But it was kind of nice because we had someone to film each other doing the jumps, and it is really fun to watch back your technique when you're trying to learn to skateboard, because you can learn so much about why you're failing so badly. So we did this yesterday. I came home. I watched all the stuff that Dalton had filmed of me, which just sounds so weird. I'm 39. I shouldn't be doing this, but it's so much fun to me. And I firmly believe that if you find something really fun, I don't care how old you are, I don't care if it seems like it's out of your comfort zone, do it because it is such a good feeling to get out and do something you've wanted to try. But I watch these things back in slow motion, and I see every single thing that I've been trying to learn, I'm doing wrong. So all the videos I've watched on how to do this, I watch and I'm like, okay, well, I am doing that part right now that I can see it, now that I can visualize what I'm doing. But this part I'm totally screwing up. I'm not twisting my ankle and dragging it correctly to the top of the board to flatten my skateboard out to get me a little more air and land smoother. And I can see that now, visualize it, because when you're doing it and everything's going fast, you feel like you're doing all the steps right. So it's kind of cool. As cheesy as it was, as much as we probably look like super dorks doing this, I loved it. And I say all this to say, first of all, the skateboarding escapades are going to continue. We would love to have more people join us if you want to try to get on a skateboard and learn. We're just messing around right now, but come on out with us. Let me know. Hit me up on Twitter, at Bommarewski on Twitter. My Instagram is at Sean Widmer, SeanWidmer. Let me know if you want to come out with us. We're going to do this on Mondays. It's probably going to be Mondays around 2 o'clock. So let me know. Let us know. We'd love to have you out. You can fall on your butt on a skateboard with us. It's just fun to get out and do something that you want to try, and there's no reason to act like you're too cool for it. There's no reason to act like you're too old for it, because you only get to do all this stuff once, and you might as well do the stuff you think you want to try. You at least should try it. Okay, that's it for today. Have a great day, everyone. Talk to you again tomorrow.